Hello, my name's Colin Crithers, and I'm a student reporter and broadcaster at the University of Iowa. As a journalist, my job is to tell stories, while also balancing everything else going on in my life as a student. But no one tells our stories. So, my goal is to tell the stories of the student journalists, broadcasters, and storytellers all across the country. Let's walk the student beat. Welcome in. Today we're walking the student beat with Tyler Reidy of Notre Dame. Tyler, how's it going today?
Great. Really good to be here. I appreciate you having me on and all the work you've been doing to promote student journalism here. Glad to be just a small part of it.
Absolutely. I really appreciate it. Glad to have you here as well. And with that, if you don't mind, just introducing a little bit more about yourself with the basics and the journalistic outlets you've worked with.
Yeah, so right now I'm going into my senior year at Notre Dame. I'll graduate in May 2026. On campus, I lead the sports department for the student radio station, so schedule all the football, basketball, hockey game broadcasts there. I'm also the sports editor for the Scholastic Magazine, which also falls under student media. I work on the leadership board for Notre Dame Television and currently serve as an associate sports editor at the Observer, which is the university's independent student newspaper. I was their sports editor during my junior year and end of sophomore year as well. And then, kind of off campus, right now during the summertime, I'm one of the broadcasters for the South Bend Cubs, which is a high A minor league affiliate of the Chicago Cubs here in town. So that'll take me through the start of September, right to the beginning of the school year. And then once that tails off, I'll go back into my second year as the radio play-by-play voice of Notre Dame Hockey. So that's on the Notre Dame radio network. So yeah, it's kind of all over the place. A lot of stuff that's on campus with other students, and some things that are not. So it keeps me busy.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure it does. I can imagine how busy your schedule is, and we're going all around with all of it. We'll make sure to touch everything. But first, kind of tell me why you wanted to get into journalism in the first place.
Yeah, so I mean, it's I was one of those kids growing up that, whenever I would play a sport in the driveway or have a video game rolling, like I'd like to talk along with it, and I always sort of kept that to myself. I didn't really want anybody else to see I was doing it because I didn't know until high school that this was something legitimate that I could do for a career. And so, once sophomore year of high school came around, and I realized that my school had little bit of a broadcast and journalism program. I actually got into it. I did my first game on the air in October of 2019, and just fell in love with it from there. I kind of realized that there aren't many things, if any, in this world that I just love doing more than this, and that I feel comfortable throwing myself completely into than this industry. So yeah, it's kind of picked up from there. Did all my high school's football, basketball games, some baseball and soccer games junior and senior year, and then yeah, Notre Dame's always the school I wanted to come to. That's where some of my family went, and the programs here, as far as student opportunities go, have really developed in terms of journalism and especially on-air opportunities over the last 8, 9 years or so. And it helps that every single sport here is relevant, and a lot of them are really big. So you get a lot of cool chances.
Yeah, speaking about relevant sports, I mean, I'll go ahead and jump to it before we come back to another point I want to make is Notre Dame in the football in the national championship this year. And I believe you were there, correct?
Yeah, I did the first playoff game we hosted against Indiana, and then I went down to Atlanta for that championship game against Ohio State. So yeah, I did those two.
Tell me about the experience of being down in Atlanta.
Oh, it was crazy. I've never been a part of a bigger just sports atmosphere. I mean, the media hotel was one of the tallest buildings in downtown. It was like 45 floors, and they had the huge, hangout area that people could go get work done and play ping pong, and the EA college football game and the big screen to watch the NFL games that were going on that weekend. It was just nuts how many people were down there and converging on that area. But it was an incredible time. Obviously, Atlanta has hosted a ton of huge games like that, so it was a great host city for that. But yeah, results aside, I mean, we'll always remember that first 10-minute drive with the nine Riley Leonard quarterback draws. But yeah, aside from the result, it was an incredible experience being down there, and it's certainly one I won't forget anytime soon.
Yeah, I talked to someone on this podcast, episode one. His name was Noah Weisskopf. I brought him up I believe last episode as well. Or no, it was 2 episodes ago, but he is from Ohio State. So he was down on the other end of that game. And again, results aside, like going into that, prepping to call that game, was their nerves a little different? Did you feel like you had to change something up at all?
No, I mean it was just the excitement because I think that's one really under the radar thing that being at Notre Dame does is like I did my first football game on the air, 3 weeks into my freshman year. Like the great thing about this school that a lot of other places don't really have is that we're not necessarily a very kind of high level in terms of notoriety type of broadcast journalism school. Like we don't really have a devoted program for that, like a Syracuse or an Arizona State would. So there really aren't that many kids that are all in on trying to do sports journalism, sports media, and especially in terms of the play-by-play side of things. And so you can get a lot of opportunities right away. And the great thing about Notre Dame is that it's such a huge athletic environment, and every single team, like I said, is relevant at most of the time. You can get some incredibly high-level reps very early on doing that. Like I was on the air for Notre Dame Clemson my freshman year, and then Notre Dame Ohio State my sophomore year, and so you get used to those big atmospheres, and I think that's one point I can make where being at Notre Dame has really helped me grow. Like you go into a game like that, and you obviously appreciate the magnitude of it and want to celebrate and take in all of the amazing things that are a part of it because it is the national championship game. But ultimately, when that microphone goes on, that red light goes on, and you're on the air, it just feels like kind of another game, and you can be comfortable with it and let your preparation take care of things from there. So obviously, there was a lot more prep that went into it because it was a national championship game, and there are a million things written out there about both of the teams, and it's the third time they've met in 3 years, but at the end of the day, it was just another WVFI broadcast, and we had a lot of fun with it.
Oh yeah, I mean I'm down in Cincinnati right now. That's where I'm from, and the amount of Ohio State and Notre Dame fans that are here, it feels like a melting pot for the national championship game this past year. So you'd go anywhere the week leading up or even the week before, and it was just like a clash of everyone in Cincinnati. It felt like, and I think that's a simply not exactly in South Bend, but in Indiana in general, there's a little similarity there. I don't know if you saw any of that, but
Yeah, no, they traveled very well to us. The Ohio State games did, Ohio State fans did 2 years ago. So yeah, there's definitely a little bit of a rivalry brewing here. I know I'm in Michigan, Michigan State, and Boston College are the traditional ones, but we don't play those teams each year anymore. So now just with how elite both teams have become with Ryan Day coaching Ohio State and Marcus Freeman, a Buckeye alum, leading us, it's become a little bit of a thing these last few years, and I know a lot of people are projecting that it could be a championship rematch. So we'll see what happens. Got to beat them eventually, though.
really good. As I saw, what is it? Your guys' Notre Dame's running back is projected first round pick, and I mean Marcus Freeman. Talk about the job he's done there. He's been impressive and honestly a really quick amount of time.
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, my first Notre Dame football game attended as a student was that Marshall game in 2022, and that first year there were a lot of ups and downs. Losing to Marshall and Stanford, a really bad team at the time, both at home, but also beating Clemson and picking up some really high quality road wins like North Carolina and Syracuse, and then sophomore year felt like we were going to take a step forward, but the schedule got really tough, and ultimately the Ohio State Louisville losses drowned that out. But man, this year, felt like kind of the make or break. There's the story out there of all of Notre Dame's, past third-year coaches, Lou Holtz, era, Dan Devine, Brian Kelly, even, those stories that it's always the third year where they find the magic and make it to or win the national championship. And boy, week one, you couldn't have been more impressed with what Marcus Freeman and company did down at Texas A&M to win that game in convincing fashion. But week after that, you come home and lose to Northern Illinois. So that was really the breaking point. But I was so impressed, and we weren't in the locker rooms for all of it. You can only kind of gauge what you hear in the press conferences, and obviously see it on the field week to week. But I was so impressed with how that team responded to that game. You come out the next week, you're not hanging your head. You go out and kick the doors off of Purdue 66-7, And from there on out, this team just had a playoff mentality. I think in hindsight, you could certainly make a case, especially with what they did in the playoff, that Northern Illinois loss was one of the best things that could happen to them because it lit a fire underneath them. It put them into that mentality where every single week we're fighting for our lives to win a national championship. Whereas, if you're 8-0 at the midway point in the season, running into a trap game like a Navy or a Georgia Tech, then maybe you have the foot off the gas a little bit because you're playing so well and you haven't hit that adversity yet. To get that type of adversity, especially coming off of such a big win at A&M that early in the season, that did so much for that football team. And well, hey, to accomplish that and benefit from the adversity, you've got to have a good leader, and that's what Marcus Freeman was.
I think that's like the beautiful thing with football is when I say is like if you can bounce back after a loss, it's like, all right, you've learned how to lose, you know how it feels to lose, but you also know how to battle in those situations. And Notre Dame was, I think, maybe the most perfect example in a few years past that we've seen in college football with that.
Oh yeah, no doubt. And it's been an interesting thing ever since Marcus Freeman took over. Like the team's ability to bounce back from losses has been sort of his hallmark. We saw it in some of the Brian Kelly years that, you lost one of those big games and the season could kind of spiral a little bit. But I remember right after the Ohio State loss 2 years ago, you went into a really tough environment, a college game day weekend, and you beat Duke on the last play of the game. And then the next week after that, you lose to Louisville, come back home and beat the brakes off of Caleb Williams and USC. And so that's certainly become a sort of a trademark, a hallmark of this team. And it's a very nice thing to have, knowing that, yeah, if you stumble a little bit one week, the team more likely than not is not going to be very happy about it. And they're going to take it on out on whoever's coming up next on the schedule.
Oh yeah, at least they got it out of the way early. And I know I'm kind of jumping around a little bit, but you mentioned the notoriety with student journalism at Notre Dame and how you might get more reps. And I mean, the second episode I did for this podcast was a guy at a D3 school, and he talked about how the benefit there is that he gets a lot more reps. There's not as many people involved. Of course, Notre Dame's not a small school, but would you almost describe it in the same way where you think there's more opportunity for you to get that many more reps?
Yeah, I would say so. And I mean, we are a smaller school than you would think. The undergrad population is only about 9,000, 10,000. So it's not like we're a massive state school here. It's not easy to get into this place, obviously. And most people who are really that invested in student journalism from a high school age on are traditionally looking elsewhere to, again, like a Syracuse and Arizona State, Mizzou, Wisconsin, whatever you want to say, Northwestern too. But yeah, I mean, you can get in here and freshman year, everybody is very, very open to getting you involved right away. The development of Fighting Irish Media and Notre Dame Studios, which was a part of the 2017 renovations of the football stadium. They put a couple of huge buildings on each side of the stadium that house not only suites and press box levels within the stadium, but on the other side, they're massive buildings to serve campus. And so in one of them, you've got the entire floor of student media and Notre Dame backed media outlets like Scholastic, NDTV, the student radio station. And on the other side, on the bottom floor, you have the huge studio that Fighting Irish Media works out of to broadcast all of the Olympic sports, hockey, volleyball, football, video board shows, whatever it might be. And so there are a ton of chances. I remember some of the heaviest involvements I took on freshman year were running replay for soccer and baseball games and kind of just getting my foot in the door and letting them know like, hey, I'm really interested. I'm really invested in this. And the great thing about Notre Dame is you're not, battling 100 other students to have those positions. And when the time comes and they see that, okay, you're pretty good. You can handle this stuff and you can go on the air. You don't have to do it once every 2 or 3 months. You can do it every week. And so it's been great.
Yeah, and you talk about being on the air. Let's talk about some of your experiences at Notre Dame right now. You mentioned first 3 weeks you were calling a football game, WVFI. So tell me about your student radio and your role there, how all that works.
Yeah, so we travel for every single football game. We cover all the home and away games with our broadcasts on student radio. So that's usually the biggest involvement, especially when we're going to Ireland every 4 or 5 years, it seems like. And and trying to figure out how to budget for a national championship run like last year. So myself and another senior, Ryan Murphy, we're great friends, and we worked together on all of that. Just finished up planning out our Miami and Arkansas travel for this fall, and so that'll be very exciting. And then once winter comes around, everything kind of cools down a little bit. That's when we do all the home basketball and hockey games, men's and women's basketball, and that's a good opportunity for us to kind of get some newer broadcasters who maybe weren't really quite on the scene yet when football season was around. Get them some looks on the air, see what we're working with for the future, and then we can use both that and the blue gold game in the spring as sort of a little bit of a tryout, if you will, just to see what type of broadcasters we're working with and how much we might want to get them involved for the following year's football season. So it's a lot of scheduling, a lot of travel planning, a lot of kind of figuring out the budget. And then we try to do a little bit of promotion on top of it, just with the game highlights we post to Twitter and YouTube, and sort of the preview posts we put out there going into each week, especially for those big football games. And so, yeah, it's a fun commitment, all things considered, because at the end of the day, you have an opportunity every single week to be really close to Notre Dame athletics and have your view and your vantage point to some of the biggest games in this school's academic year.
Yeah, and I think just for clarification with the whole like planning out travel thing, are you scheduling which broadcasters are going to call which game and dealing with the budget itself, or are you communicating with a part of the university for the budget?
Yeah, well, the communication with the university and the budget's a little bit above me. We have a couple of advisors at Student Media overall that kind of talk through that with not only us as Student Radio, but Scholastic Magazine, which usually travels a writer to the games, and sometimes the television station, the Student Television, NDTV wants to as well. And so there's kind of a bigger conversation that happens above our pay grade, but at the end of the day, our job is to make sure we communicate with those advisors like, hey, what we're looking to do. And then from there, we can have that discussion of what might work and what maybe isn't so feasible.
And you bring up the Scholastic there. So you mentioned that you worked for them, correct?
Yeah, I'm their sports editor now for my first year. Yep.
Yeah, so Scholastic and then the Observer as well. And I don't think many people could hear those things and they're going to think, oh, it's just student newspaper for both of them, right? Talk to me about what those are and the differences between the two of them.
Yeah, well, the big difference is that the Observer is entirely independent of the university. That's all run through donations through Notre Dame Day, which is the university's annual fundraiser that comes around in the spring, and advertisements. And so none of the university's dollar goes into that. So that's obviously very different. It's completely student run. There's not an advisor sitting in the office with us who graduated 15, 20 years ago to kind of lead us on where to go. It's all student run there. And so some really cool things can come out of that. And then Scholastic on the other side is obviously under the university's umbrella, I would say, and the second floor Duncan Student Center, which again houses all of the student media outlets. And the Observer is definitely much more of a kind of night to night thing. We publish in the paper physically 3 times a week and have online content going out every night. Football coverage is a lot bigger for specific games. We'll try and have 5 or 6 stories on the Friday morning going into the game. We have these big things called Irish Insiders, which have the really cool front covers that are specific to the storylines of each game, and then have a bunch of content both leading into the game and coming out of the game for Monday morning. Scholastic is a little bit more of a monthly type of thing, just kind of capturing the big stories going around on campus as far as sports go. But we're looking into maybe adding a little bit of a kind of a smaller kind of pocketbook style football edition that we can give away to fans coming through the campus on each home weekend this year. So we'll see what that turns into. I know we're having a meeting about it coming up later this week. So we'll see what goes on there. But yeah, a lot of really cool opportunities on both sides of it.
Yeah, I'd say that's a great and really cool idea. One thing that we do on the Iowa side is I am a co-host with Elise Gannon this upcoming year at Iowa for a pregame football show called Before the Kickoff that goes out every week. So it's similar to the paper where like, all right, they're posting like they submit 3 print pieces a week, but also at the end we get our little link for our show as well in there. So I will say the weekly thing obviously helps on our side. So I think that's a really fun idea. from there. But when you mentioned for where you guys are at now, monthly editions and then like the 3 times a week with the Observer, how is your approach to different stories different when you're going into both of them?
Yeah, well, obviously, time, like you mentioned, is a big thing. And with Scholastic, you can take a lot more time to sort of plan out a story and, get all your bases covered as far as people you want to talk to, things you want to write about. And so that's a big thing. Whereas, the Observer, you kind of have to get your routine down. We can be, putting out as many as, 5, 6, 7 stories a night. And, sometimes a lot of that falls on the sports editor. And so you kind of have to have a good routine down, how exactly you're going to put out a high quality article while also not taking too much time so you can get to other things. So that's definitely one of the biggest differences, just in the nature of that and with how often things go out there.
Yeah, but then you also on the other side doing the writing, but also the play-by-play as well. And again, just to refresh for those that might not remember at the beginning, mention some of the opportunities at Notre Dame specifically that you're able to get involved with TV play-by-play, not just radio.
Yeah, so again, a lot of that is through Fighting Irish Media and Notre Dame Studios. That's where you get a ton of the opportunities with the games broadcast on ACC Network Extra. That's kind of your version of your Big Ten plus, our version of that, I should say. And so, we do every women's, men's soccer game, volleyball game, and then the spring baseball, softball, a lot of lacrosse. Obviously, our men's lacrosse program has really taken off over the last couple of years, and there's always a handful of games in the spring where you have an opportunity to get on the air for that. So yeah, it's all really cool, and it's a great way to just showcase and develop in all of the different sports. Because I remember like there's a track and field event we have too in early February that Notre Dame hosts that we've always done a broadcast for. One of my good friends who just graduated last year was really big into that. So, really whatever sport you want to do, there's a chance to do it on that TV side. And then if you're more interested in doing it through a student media route and kind of, being on the hosting slash analysis type of role, that's where Notre Dame Television, our student run group, really comes in with our sports show every Friday. So yeah, there's a lot of great stuff out there. I remember my freshman year, the very first sport I did on campus was rugby. I basically did that for the entirety of my fall semester. Never expected that would be my first sport at Notre Dame, but it was. I learned a lot, and it's a pretty fun sport to call. It's certainly different.
I gotta ask because like I think where this is going, I had a similar experience with field hockey. Did you know much about rugby going into it?
No, I just knew how the game looked. I knew that it was a bunch of guys on both sides of the ball, and you pitch it around, and you can't throw it forward, and it's a physical game, and that was about the extent of it. So there was definitely a learning process going into that fall for sure.
That was pretty much exactly, besides the time frame, my field hockey experience where I was like, all right, this is about my second or maybe third call for Big Ten Plus, and they're throwing me on field hockey. I've never seen field hockey. I've never really watched it. So I think I sat down a day or two before and just watched as many YouTube videos as I could, explaining the sport, the rules, what goes into it, what the players are trying to think on the field. And then I sit there and I'm like, I don't know why they're blowing the whistle at this point or another. I don't know if you've ever seen a field hockey game, but it moves so quick. And sometimes you have no idea what the refs are calling.
Yeah, no, we don't have field hockey. I have been to a game over at Northwestern. It's different. I mean, I grew up playing ice hockey, so I guess it shouldn't fall that too far from the tree for me, but who knows? But yeah, that was definitely the big thing with rugby. Like if you can't see or kind of read the calls the official is making, because we have a tiny press box up there. He's not usually making a very distinct gesture on what's going on. It can certainly be kind of tough.
Oh yeah, no, I could definitely imagine that. We only have club rugby, so we don't have to broadcast that at least. But I also you mentioned like the track and field. I have to ask, have you ever broadcasted a track and field meet?
No, but I want to this year.
Oh,
Yeah, my good buddy Jacob Irons, who just graduated this past spring and was one of the faces of student media here the last few years. He kind of had the market cornered there as far as broadcasting. It's called the Mayo Invite, and that was like his thing. Like I'm doing this, nobody's touching it, and he did a great job with it just because he loves kind of those I don't know, more sicko level type of sports, if you will, where you've got to obviously put a lot more research and work into it to kind of figure out what's going on. But yeah, no, if the opportunity comes around in the spring, sign me up for sure.
Yeah, I like calling myself not the same way, but a sicko, mostly with the different teams I watch. I think if you know the reference, I passed the Hawaii test quite a bit.
Okay, yep,
Oh yeah,
I know
yeah,
what
you
you're
get
talking
it, you
about.
get it. But with track and field, because like Big Ten Plus, we no longer have to do it. Like we had to do it my freshman year. I was still getting into Big Ten Plus at that time, but at least on our side, that was about a six, like a 12, I think a 12-hour broadcast with no break in it. So I don't know if that's the same on your guys' side or not.
Yeah, I think with that track and field invite, we only do like the first half, or I think it might be the second half of
Hmm.
Saturday. So it could be a 12-hour broadcast, but I think we just cover some of the bigger events that happen Saturday afternoon.
That makes sense. That sounds a lot better than the whole day because like I have that makes sense too. Is that like the first few races, like I think like let's get dramatic here. The Olympics, yeah, the first few races are kind of cool to see, but you care about what how they finish. It's the same with like a Big Ten meet or like an ACC meet. You care about who finishes where, right?
Right.
Exactly. But I mean, we talked about it. We got to mention some of the non-rev sports as well. But where you're at now with the South Bend Cubs, so tell me a little bit about that experience, how you got your foot in the door there, and how's the summer been for you?
Oh, it's been great. Really cool to get some professional experience here before I graduate. Didn't expect that to happen, but the way it did happen was my sophomore year. I was asked because as I mentioned, I did a lot of replay for some of the smaller sports with Fighting Irish Media throughout my freshman year, and so they asked me like, "Hey, do you want to try this for a football game video board show in the fall?" And said, "Yeah, sure. I'll take the Western Michigan game, or the Central Michigan game, I should say, in middle of September." Probably not something I'd ever do again. Just how much I love being around game day weekend at Notre Dame. You basically have to sit in the studio from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. on a Saturday home game day. So that was certainly different for me. But the great thing that came from it is one of the lead replay operators for those video board shows is the same guy who oversees the media department with the South Bend Cubs. And so I met him, got a chance to talk to him, and we kind of got on the same page with just what I was trying to do with baseball. I was just starting my sophomore year at the time, and so I went up to the Northwoods League the summer after that, and we stayed in touch. And yeah, he reached out to me this past October and said, "Hey, we might have something open up for you." So that worked out, and yeah, now we're in year one with the Cubs, and it's been really really fun. It's cool to see all of the people that come out from Notre Dame to just support us and come out and see me and enjoy the ballpark in the spring and fall when school's still in session. And so, yeah, it's been really cool.
What do you think the coolest or most unique part about calling minor league baseball is?
Oh man, the travel, yeah, I would say the travel, but it's not even close to as intense as the Northwoods were last summer, just driving out to North Dakota and getting back at 6 in the morning when the sun's coming up. So, with our league, the travel's not that crazy just because pretty much every team's within 5 hours of us. But I think just the opportunities to be around these guys who are, certainly close to the peak of their sport. Everybody that comes through here was either a $1 million international signing when they were 16, 17 years old, or they were one of the best players in their college conference, and we're obviously a draft pick within those first 20 rounds. And so just the stories that come from that and the opportunity to be around those guys every day and just chat it up during batting practice and get a feel for these guys and their journeys and what they experience every day. I think that's definitely one of the best parts of it, and something that you remember long down the road. When you say like Pete Kerr Armstrong, he was a South Bend Cub 3 years ago, and Matt Shaw, we just talked to him about his experience in South Bend. Now that he's at Wrigley Field, he was with us 2 years ago, and so it's really cool to follow along and see these guys that you have a chance to interact with every day eventually go down the road, work their way up the levels, and do some really amazing things.
Yeah, the Cubs are so like at the professional level, at the major league level, I should say, are so impressive right now. I gotta divert for 5 minutes. Are you a Cubs fan?
I grew up a Royals fan, but with the Cubs being in the National League, I'll happily root for them. No question about that. I mean, our paths don't cross all that often, but my heart is still with KC. That's where half my mom's side of the family is, and so I'll root for them. But when like last week comes around and the Royals are playing the Cubs, I'll just be like, okay, who really needs these games more? And the Royals kind of did, so it's like, okay, take 2 out of 3. That's cool with me. But it wasn't at the expense of our former South Bend Cubs playing well. So I think that was one of the best possible outcomes there.
It really was. And I gotta say, I'm a Cincinnati Reds fan, so you guys we had a little swap in the offseason. You guys took Jonathan India from us.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that hasn't been a great trade on either side. I heard Singer's not doing too well there. He's got the DRA pushing 5.
Yeah. So your singer's been a solid five in the rotation, but like it's not been like ecstatic, I
Yeah.
guess is the way to put it. It's not been like, oh, we fleeced the Royals because India's not doing great and Singer's been amazing. Like he's had some good outings. I as a fan have been happy with them, but it's not like he's been a loss, I guess, for the Royals.
Yeah, and I mean the starting pitching room is just so crowded there now, especially
Mm.
now because you have a rookie Noah Cameron who has just burst onto the scene and is pitching to a 2 ERA for it's been 3 months now. And I guess at this point in the season, Singer would have been nice to have because you've got three of your four best starting pitchers on the injured list, and two of them I don't think are going to come back until next season. So I guess at this point it would have been nice to have him, but you can't predict that. I mean, the Royals had five really good starting pitchers going into the year, and Singer just wasn't really going to fit with that. They needed a leadoff hitter, and unfortunately, India hasn't been all that we were hoping for there. So,
No, no. Yeah, I mean, you never want to predict the injuries and everything. I know India had that walk-off home run, his first of his career the other day, but yeah, I mean, I know he has been struggling at the plate, which is kind of sad to see. We still have a lot of love for him in
well,
Cincinnati.
for all we know, that walk-off home run could be a little bit stained because you know who he hit it off of, right?
Oh yeah, go for it. Go for
Yeah, Emmanuel Classe, who is now on paid leave for the gambling investigation. So, yeah, it was a middle slider, just 90 miles an hour spinning in the middle of the zone. So who knows what was going on there? But you'll take the walk-off homer, I guess. Gotta do something with that pitch.
You'll take a win, right? You'll take a nice home run. I mean, oh my goodness. Have you seen all the stuff about like the sponsorships with the Guardians lately?
I mean, it's pretty funny when I see somebody post on Twitter like a picture from the outfield and you have the ribbon scoreboard banner that just says bet 365 and it's like, yeah, that might be what some of your players are doing quite literally. So, oh man, it's funny, but yeah, we're a little weak for baseball here, obviously, with the deadline coming up, and the talks are starting to heat up about how we might not have a season in 2 years, and and now players might be betting, so it's very strange.
I love when baseball is hitting its stride and all this starts coming up. I hope for the best. And of course, you're in the professional setting right now. I won't make you talk too much on some of that stuff, but I do want to backtrack to the Northwoods League for a minute. You mentioned it briefly, but for those that don't know, what exactly is the Northwoods League and the opportunity there?
It is, in my opinion, the most intense summer wood bat college baseball league there is. Everybody hears about the Cape League, and obviously I have a ton of respect for that and how cool it is to be on Cape Cod for the summertime. But with all due respect, they're playing about 40 games in the summer. They don't start till the middle of June. They end at the end of July, start of August. We're going 72 games in like 75 days from Memorial Day to the middle of August. And like the farthest team you travel to is 6.5, 7 hours away, at least in our case. Everybody on the Cape is within an hour or two of each other. And obviously both leagues have their benefits, but in my opinion, there's not a league in the country, especially if you can travel. And not every broadcaster can in the Northwoods League at this point, but fortunately in St. Cloud we were able to. You can travel. There's not another league in the country that's closer to minor league baseball than that. And so that was a huge experience for me, just getting to know the guys and the coaching staff every single day and figuring out how to get a work routine going when you got a game on the road at 7:05 and you're busting back from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. and then you've got another 7 o'clock game the next day, figuring out when you're going to sleep, when you're going to get work done, how early you're going to show up to the ballpark. That was all a huge part of it, and certainly really good as far as preparation goes for this year.
Oh yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense with everything there. The travel is ridiculous. I was in the Great Lakes Summer Collegiate League last summer, so I mean the travel is not anywhere close to it. There's not even a portion of the teams in the league right now. But I do remember one of the travel experiences I had. We were in I was in Hamilton, which is near Cincinnati, and then
Yeah.
you have a general idea of where Muskegon, Michigan
Oh,
is.
wow.
Oh yeah, we went up there for a series. We ended up going back up for a championship game, like one of the championship games, I should say. Got delayed. We ended up getting rained out, so we had to stay in a hotel about 2 hours away. Went back up the next day, night game. And as soon as the game's over, they're like, "All right, since you guys got rained out the day before, you have to play the next game the next day." And it was back down in Hamilton for game two of the series. So we didn't get back until, as you were mentioning, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. And then we're playing a game in about 6 hours. So I was back up and out of the door 2, 3 hours later.
Yeah, I heard a story because our old skipper from St. Cloud the year before I got there, he's with the team in Minot now. And apparently, like during the weeks that the state fair's going on up there or the county fair, whatever it is, they have to play day games on weekends just, because otherwise you're going to lose your attendance to the state fair. And so they had a day earlier this year. I think they were playing somebody in Minnesota where they got back into town at 7:45 in the morning and had a 105 game on that day.
Oh,
Like, what do you even do?
I don't. Yeah, I've got nothing good like to say like on that part, like what you could do. I think it's just walk
Right.
up and hope they throw. Like if you're a batter in that situation, walk up and hope they're throwing balls. Hope they can't throw a strike. If you're a broadcaster, hope it's a smooth day, no crazy plays.
Yeah.
But you also in St. Cloud had some recognition, had some applause, which I'll let you go ahead and mention now.
Oh yeah, so yeah, mid-season, yeah, I hate talking about this, but yeah, mid-season I was able to be a part of the broadcast team for the Northwoods League Home Run Challenge, an all-star game, which was really cool, really fun challenge. That was unlike anything I've ever had to experience preparation-wise since I started doing games 6 years ago now, just because like you get the all-star roster, and I think the Thursday before the game, it was a Tuesday game. And so you're basically budgeting that whole weekend between, getting ready and getting set for your games while also researching these bajillion guys from all the different teams around the league and having backstories there on them. And so that was an interesting challenge. Then obviously once game day comes around, you've got to figure out from the two field managers, okay, who's going to play when, who's going to pitch when, and you have to have your scorebook all allotted to make sure that you can fit everybody in the right way and know when people are going to be a part of the ball game. And so, yeah, that was a game unlike anything I've ever broadcast. Got to do all of the playoff games on the Great Plains side of the Northwoods League postseason, which was really cool. They offered me the chance, and this is again one of those travel things. We lost the Great Plains championship game to go to the Northwoods League championship game. I think it ended at like 10:30 p.m. on a Wednesday night. Championship was on a 7 p.m. Thursday the next day in Kalamazoo, and they call me after the game and say, "Hey, if you want to do the championship game, it's yours." And I would have had to just leave the ballpark right away, go to bed, and probably get in my car at 4 or 5 in the morning to drive out to Kalamazoo. And I was like, I think I should probably make sure I get a chance to say goodbye to this team. And so that would have been something if I had taken that up. But a good friend of mine that I went to rival high school with was the broadcaster in Kalamazoo. He's in Fort Wayne now, still in the same league as me, and he had a chance to call that game. So I think it all worked out really well. And then both of us, who have been great friends for 5, 6 years now, we're the Northwoods League announcers of the year on the Great Plains and the Great Lakes side. So that was a really fun honor to receive in November and just cap off what was certainly one of the best experiences I've had anywhere for my development and, just as far as from an enjoyment perspective, being around that team and that organization in the Northwoods.
Yeah, I say there's some really good baseball in town in the Northwoods League. I was more thinking that Great Plains announcer of the year, broadcaster of the year award that you received, and I didn't realize some of the other stuff there. So applause to you and all of that. But maybe the part that you will love talking about a little bit more is the ice hockey side of things, tying it back in the Notre Dame. Tell me about how much you travel and how much you cover the Notre Dame ice hockey team.
Yeah, so I travel with them anywhere they go. I went to Belfast with them in November last year. I did the game outside at Wrigley Field in January when it was 17 degrees, and so yeah, basically they kind of told me like, hey, if you can make this work into your school schedule, you can do every single game home and away with this team, and that's how it ended up being. And yeah, so anywhere they went, non-conference within the Big Ten, I was there with them. So that was pretty crazy to experience. Got to do the postseason games too. We ended up winning the series up in Minnesota, upsetting the Gophers, who were the 2 seed, as the 7 seed, and then playing at Michigan State for a chance to go to the conference championship game. So yeah, that was a pretty crazy experience. And yeah, one of the most memorable seasons I've had, even though, we didn't win a ton of games, just the chance to be around that team to that extent. Because, that was the team that I really fell in love with my freshman year on campus. Obviously you come here, about the football team, the basketball teams are pretty notable as well. But hockey, having played it for as long as I did, and we were season ticket holders for the college team in Omaha for 5, 6 years. Like, that's always the sport that's gotten me the most emotional. I'll shed a tear or two at the end of every season, and that made it just a really, really fulfilling and fun and special experience to be around Notre Dame hockey that much this past year, and again going in this year.
As you mentioned, like playing hockey growing up, and I don't know what other sports you may or may not have played, but how different or unique is it to be able to call those games that you've had that background experience playing the sport?
Yeah, well, it helps a lot, not so much from a, kind of technical perspective of understanding the game, because I mean, you can talk to any coach or player and kind of figure that out, but just the ability to track the puck, like that's so huge because it's such a small object that they're playing with. It's not a big football where, you see every play develop, you see them line up, you kind of get a sense of where the ball might be going, or basketball where it's a big round ball, it's not moving all that quickly, and baseball, which every pitch you can kind of prepare for. Like hockey, it's going all over the place. It's hitting the glass, it's hitting the board, it's bouncing off of people's skates. There was a goal that we gave up this year that went off of somebody's helmet. Like it's all over the place. And so I think that's the biggest advantage of having played the sport, is just that you kind of have that sense of where the puck is going, and you can sort of foresee that as the play develops. And when you're doing hockey on the radio, you've got to be able to track the puck, because the second you fall behind in your play-by-play doing a hockey game, it's tough to recover. You've got to be on the ball, or I guess on the puck, as you would say in that instance, and make sure that you're keeping up with everything, because it's the fastest game there is. But we love it. There's never a dull or dry moment.
Yeah, I feel like it's a great sport as a broadcaster to have in your resume too.
Yeah, I mean, I always tell people like the big four sports, football, basketball, baseball, hockey, football, basketball, baseball, any university you go to has them. And, I'm sure you can call a game at any of those places. But like if you're going to school at Alabama or Texas or something out in California, like hockey at the collegiate level is different, because it's a limited number of schools that have them. It's the Big Ten, it's the NCHC, which is, a bunch of smaller schools in the Midwest. It's Hockey East in New England, and that's pretty much it, with the exception of, the D2 and the D3 levels. And so like the chance to do hockey games regularly while still being a student is, something that I don't take very lightly, just because I know that there are a lot of places where it's just not very possible to get those kinds of reps. And so, yeah, it's a big deal to me, no question.
I mean, even Iowa is one of the schools that doesn't have a hockey program. So like that's one of the things like it's so cool to see those things. But yeah, I always love asking about hockey because it is one of those things that I don't have the opportunity for at Iowa, but I think would be an exciting sport to call. We have an ECHL team, so like a minor league team in Iowa City, and you can kind of get opportunity there, but that's a whole different story. And I'll go ahead and put it this way, being on record, I won't say too much, but with now talking about all the experiences that you've had, what is maybe one of your favorite travel experiences you've had, whether it's hockey, baseball, football? What do you think is your favorite?
It's pretty quick answer for me. Texas A&M with student radio this past fall. Not because of, being around that environment. I obviously it was sick down there. That being a season opening game and it's a night game, college game days there, and that's one of the biggest universities in the country. Just completely turning its attention to that football game. That was amazing. But yeah, I don't know if you saw where we had to broadcast that game from because there was a little bit of a miscommunication in Texas A&M granting us our credential, but I don't think being fully aware that we were trying to broadcast the game as a student radio station. Like I remember 2 months later tuning into Mizzou. They were on the road at A&M, and they obviously have a huge student media department and student radio station, and they had to call it remotely. So I don't think A&M generally is geared up or has the space for student radio to come in and do the football games as the visiting team. And I think that was the case for us, but they didn't fully realize that we were looking to call the game. And so they gave us the credential. We showed up, and they didn't have a place for us. And so 90 minutes before kickoff, we're standing there thinking, like, oh, what the heck are we going to do? We might not be able to get on the air and do this massive game that is opening up the season. But ultimately, they find a vacant, unused camera platform for us. It's behind the corner of the end zone on the main concourse. So, we're setting up, running the game off of my partner's hotspot, and it somehow all went off without a hitch. And honestly, it was a great vantage point just because, like, you're right behind the lower bowl of the seats. You feel like you're in the environment. You can take off the headset and chop it up with A&M fans who I've got to say, they were some incredibly nice people. Those Aggie fans down there. So I know all the different schools around the SEC got a lot of rep for how brutal, how hostile they can be, but they were great people down there. The environment was phenomenal, and the game certainly went as we would have hoped for as fans of the Fighting Irish. So yeah, that as far as the travel experience goes, I think tops the list just because of how much of an up and down it was of just getting that thing on the air.
Hey, the more you know, it tips off to the Aggie fans. That's something I probably would not have realized. I've also not really been to Texas, so I wouldn't even give you an estimate of what I would think. But that is good to know. So maybe I should take a trip down to Texas A&M, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean they're turning things around a little bit. They've got one of the Notre Dame's former coordinators, Mike Elko, running the show now as the head coach, and so yeah, they might be on the come up a little bit. They come to us this year for our home opener in the middle of September, so that's going to be a massive game. And yeah, they might be a little bit back. We'll see how close they can get to the playoff this year.
Yeah, it'll be exciting opening game. That'll be definitely one I'll be hopefully watching, maybe at least just paying attention to, depending on where I'm at covering Iowa games. But with all this as well, you've talked about the different experiences you've had up from high school up until now. And what's maybe an attribute about yourself, maybe as a broadcaster, journalist, that's led you to get this far?
I think it's just work ethic because one of the quotes that I live by that, my dad always tried to kind of instill in me is that, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And, I fully realize, every time I'm doing a game or I'm on the air or I'm, looking back or looking around to see what other people are doing, like, no question, there are more talented people out there than me. There are maybe more qualified people out there than me to, do certain games or have certain opportunities. Like, yeah, I don't hide from that. I'm not going to act like I'm, the greatest thing since sliced bread here. I mean, it's just a fact. There's probably somebody more talented than me out there, but what I can control is the attitude I bring to every single broadcast I do, every single meeting I show up to, I want to lift people up. I want to lead a team if I have a chance to, and the effort's the other side of it too. And that goes back to the preparation for every single game, and just giving everything I have to, whether it's the national championship game for Notre Dame football or the fourth game of a homestand against the Beloit Skycarp for the Cubs in the middle of July. Like, you've got to treat all of it equally, and you've got to understand that somebody might be listening to the game for the first time, and is going to have an impression of not only you as a broadcaster, but just the overall quality of the product and what you're putting out there as a unit, in terms of production. And so that attitude and effort, that's something I live by, and I try not to get too caught up in the talent level I have or whatsoever, or how good at this I am, because it's such a subjective thing too. Like, there's no way to objectively evaluate play by play and on air work, especially. Like, everybody has their different tastes. Gus Johnson's very different from Jim Nance, and they're doing a lot of the same games at those high levels. And everybody's got their own style. You kind of have to find it. You have to figure out how to weed out the certain feedback. And most importantly, especially for me, you've got to bring the right attitude and the right effort level to the table.
I love it. I think that was very well said. Not going to be able to put that any better. So again, thank you for that. But I think just to lighten up real quick before I ask the final few things, do you have any welcome to college moments where you stepped in and were like, all right, maybe this was not exactly how I planned things to go?
Oh, I'm trying to remember. I don't know. Gosh, freshman year just feels like so long ago now. That's the thing, man. Especially when you do all of these games in the summertime with these baseball leagues, the school years get drifted so far apart. But yeah, I don't know if it was like I didn't expect it to go this way moment, but some of those Saturdays doing, the rugby games when it's 30 degrees and snowing outside, and you're in the booth from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. trying to, figure out these teams that obviously don't have anything out there online, and you can only get what you can from the coaches. Like, that was definitely something where it's kind of more of a welcome to, this industry and just taking your reps type of moment rather than a welcome to college thing. I think there are a lot more welcome to college things that can maybe be kind of discussed in a different setting. But as far as a welcome to the industry goes, definitely a lot of those games where it's not the glitz and glamour of Notre Dame football, but it's a chance to be on the air nonetheless. And you got to make the best of it. A lot of those rugby games, I was just on my own 8 hours for maybe 8 games back to back to back to back with, these teams that there's only so much information out there about, and you've got to make the best of it. And that was, certainly something that I guess I didn't expect to be doing here. I didn't even know that Notre Dame had a rugby thing going. I think my year that I did it, freshman year, was the first year they streamed it on YouTube. So yeah, I guess that was unexpected too.
No, absolutely. And I think I'm going to keep this question pretty bland. I'll let you take it wherever you want with it. But when people look at student journalism, why should they have a level of respect for it?
Because we care. And I think at the end of the day, there are obviously so many people out there who, have graduated and are doing this for a living and covering teams. And, it's not to knock any of what they're doing, or say that they don't care, but they're making money doing it. There's a paycheck that comes to that, and there aren't paychecks here in student journalism. You might have, the school or the department with which you work, cover your travel expenses or whatnot, but I mean, you're not making a living being a student journalist as far as the time goes when you're in college. And so, to invest yourself this deeply in it and be a part of it to so highly of an extent, like, that shows that you really do care and you really do value the teams you're covering. And man, a lot of the times, I'll bring up JJ Post. He graduated last year, 2 years ago now, actually, 2024. He became one of my best friends at Notre Dame while we were both there together. He's at ESPN now, doing a lot of writing and editing work there. So he's been fantastic. But like, he and I both, just so highly cherish and value every single game you get a chance to do. Like we will happily drive 3 hours to somewhere in the middle of nowhere in Michigan to watch a women's soccer scrimmage if, there's nothing going on academically in the middle of August. So I think that's one of the great things you get about student journalism is just, everybody cares so much. And, this early on when you're in the industry, like, we're all working together out here. I know there's some competitiveness to it about, trying to find the right job and figuring out what you want to do long term and getting opportunities on the air. But I think the camaraderie that can come with it, some of the best friends I've made at Notre Dame are other student journalists. And so, yeah, I guess that's kind of more of an introspective around our circle, but why people should care about it is because we care and we will go to great lengths to chase our dreams and cover these teams that we have a lot of respect and valuation for, and I think that's what it's all about.
Yeah, I don't know if you can hear the sirens beside me, but I think that's the great answer I get out of all of this. And what we love about student journalism, just the love of the sport, the love of what we do. And I think going into your senior year, I got to throw this part in there, but winning STA honorable mention All American this past year, what do you look to get out of this next year?
Yeah, I mean, just to keep growing and, most importantly, just make the most of every opportunity I get because it's so weird that senior year is now here. 2 years ago, it just felt like yesterday when I was kind of just getting started in this and looking up to all the people and thinking, oh, I got so much time left. Senior year will never come. But no, it comes at you quick. And yeah, definitely. I want to make sure that, I do keep myself busy doing these games, but I also want to, give myself the chances to reflect and just enjoy some of the things off the air, whether it's the dorm community or just life on campus and getting a chance to walk around and experience it all because these 4 years go by very quickly. And so yeah, I obviously want to keep doing as much as I can to set myself up for success in the now and in the future within this industry and this career. But at the end of the day, it is senior year, and Notre Dame's a place where you don't really know what you've got until you leave it. And so I want to make sure that I enjoy every opportunity and make the most of this experience as this last year gets started. Hard to believe I'm saying that.
Yeah, I know that's a tough one. I'm not. I'm only going into my junior year, but I will not be ready for that when next year comes. I'm barely ready for it this year. This I'm a junior, but that's the beauty with Notre Dame is here and all the beautiful stuff there, the beautiful campus and the opportunities, and of course the athletic programs. The nice thing with student journalism is networking is a huge thing. So an opportunity for you here to kind of give a plug or shout out for people to go check out after they've listened to this.
Yeah, I would say, well, you're talking about for
For
me.
you, yes,
But
yes, my
yeah, yeah,
bad.
yeah. Yeah, I got a YouTube channel online. My website's under construction right now. I'm working on that here toward the end of the summer, but that'll be back up shortly. So you can find my stuff there. Just look up Tyler Reidy on YouTube. There's not that many Tyler Reidys out there. Should be pretty easy to find. But got all of my radio, TV work from hockey, football, soccer, baseball, whatever it might be. And so. Yeah, drop a follow on Twitter, Instagram at Tyler J Reidy. Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. Just follow along, see what the Cubs season's up to, and whatever else pops up along the way during this upcoming school year. But yeah, at Tyler J Reidy on socials, and then if you look up Tyler Reidy on YouTube, won't be that hard to find. So yep, there you go.
Absolutely. I'll make sure I link everything as well. And I'll definitely be tuning in some more South Bend Cubs games. I know you guys were just in Dayton with my Reds high affiliate there. I don't exactly know how that series went for you guys, but did that go for you guys?
Yeah, they got the series win. There's some controversy with Dayton on Sunday because we were up 4-0 on a grand slam in the fourth inning, and Dayton apparently got a bunch of rain dumped on it, couldn't get its field in order, and decided to cancel the game, which made us a little bit angry because we had the lead and only needed to get three more outs for the game to go official after 5 innings, and then you could just call it a win for us. And so, yeah, now it's still a 3-2 series win, but I think everybody wanted a little bit more out of that. So, oh well, that's baseball sometimes. And now we got a long 12-game homestand, and we're taking on the division leader tonight. So got to turn the page.
Yeah, don't those homestands feel really nice, especially after some travel?
Yeah, it is. And, I don't travel with them to every series, but it certainly is good to be home. And Cub fans really do a nice job of showing out, especially when summertime comes around and you're not dealing with those 35, 40-degree April nights anymore. So, yeah, it's good.
Were you in Dayton?
I was not. I was with them last on the road when they were in Cedar Rapids and then Peoria right around the 4th of July. So, no, I went back to St. Cloud for the week to see my people from last year.
Absolutely good there. I was going to ask you about Dayton's ballpark. I haven't been there, but I was going to ask your feelings or thoughts about it. But anyway, so I know I'll be tuning in some more South Bend Cubs games, and with more of everything going on, good luck for you this next upcoming year. And thank you for spending some time with me today.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate what you do.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Student Beat. Make sure you check out all of Tyler's work and follow along with him as he continues to put out very impressive calls and broadcasts. And if you want to stay up to date with all upcoming episodes of The Student Beat, make sure to follow me on Twitter at C_Carithers33 or at The Student Beat. We just walked The Student Beat. I'll see you next week for a brand new episode.